Hello again. This lecture is about installing Java and Notepad++. So for the camp, since we're going to be programming in Java, you'll need to install Java, not just the ability to run Java programs, but the ability to compile them. So we need something called the Java Developer Kit, or JDK. And there are a number of ways that you can edit files, and the simplest way, or a simple way, is with something called Notepad++. So we'll talk about downloading those two things. In addition to this video, a separate tutorial has been provided to the camp participants. So that one has a little bit more detail. This one shows you things in action. That one shows you a little bit more detail. Ideally, everyone will have Java installed prior to the beginning of camp. If that doesn't happen, that's okay. Even if you just download your files but don't have them fully installed, that's a good head start. And that way we won't lose a day just based on getting people up and ready to run. Before we talk about Java and Notepad per se, let's talk about Windows, command prompts, things like that that you're going to be using. So, most people are familiar with manipulating their computers using the Windows command prompts and using the different directories. And so let me switch to that. So here's a directory for me. And we start out at the top. This is called the C drive. That's the highest, most root, basic directory there is. And I recommend that you, when you save your files, you save them very close to the C drive. So you'll see I have here CodeCamp right off the C drive. And when I go into CodeCamp, I'm going to have my Java files. So I've got a couple there already. Okay. File organization is a real big deal. And it's easy to create a big mess of your files if you're not thinking about how you want them to be organized ahead of time. So I'm going to put all of my files in CodeCamp, and as we go through the camp, you'll see I'll start to make subdirectories based on the different projects that we do. You also need to know where your files are located, because Java is going to ask you that basically. So here we are in the C drive. Up here in the address bar, that's always telling you where you are in terms of directory structure. So here I am, I'm at the C drive. I can go into Embry-Riddle, courses, pick a course at random. See, so you see, I can always tell where I am based on this this address bar up here. That's going to become important because when you install Java, you need to find out where your computer put Java. I highly recommend using the default options, and that will make it easy to find Java. Okay. In addition, though, to the Windows prompts, you can operate from Command Console. So if you go down to the lower, for a Windows machine, if you go down to the lower left corner and type run in the search bar, a little window will pop up, and type CMD for command, and you're going to get a command prompt. Prior to Windows, this was how we always operated computers, was with the command prompt. And as you can see, I start out here in the C drive. And there's only a couple things that we need to do here. We'll go over this again in the camp, and this will become second nature to you in a little bit. We need to change directories just like you did in Windows. So for example, I was in this CodeCamp directory. See, I'm in the C drive, CodeCamp, and I can change my directory here to go to the CodeCamp directory. You do that with CD, change directory. All of these commands have little mnemonics like that. CD for change directory. CD, C, CodeCamp. And now you'll notice the prompt tells me that I'm in the CodeCamp. And then the other command that's of interest to us is to list the directory. Tell us what's in there, and that's dir. So if I do dir, it says I have hello world.class, hello world.java, and stapler.java, and sure enough, if I look on the window, I have hello world.class, hello world.java, and stapler.java. So you're getting the same information, but you're doing it through commanding the computer directly through commands rather than clicking on things. All right, this is the same stuff that I already told you. Here's a summary of commands, both for Windows and for the Mac/Linux world. Okay, now to download Notepad, super easy. You go to Google Notepad download, and there we are. Just follow the directions. It really doesn't matter which release you get for Notepad. Doesn't matter. And as soon as you download it, you'll get an executable installer file. Click on the installer file. Notepad will install itself. No muss, no fuss. It works pretty straightforward. Now, what does Notepad look like when you're running it? It looks like this. And so you type in here, and Notepad is clever enough that when we pick the language and set it to Java, it's clever enough to color code things based on what they mean inside of Java. Now, I'm not going to explain this program right now. That'll come in a little bit, but you can see it's just a basic editor, nice simple editor that works for small projects. Downloading Java and installing Java is a little trickier. So we want to download and install Java. We want to use this 8U291. There are Java is up to, I think, Java version 16. We're going to stick with Java version 8, and the reason is it just is a cleaner version for the camp. They added some things and changed some things in the later versions that make the installation a little bit trickier. So we're sticking with this one. And we can, I'm going to try to cut and paste this thing. I'm going to go to that download page. And it looks like this. And basically pick your operating system and then download and run the executable. So for Windows 86 and 64 is probably what you're going to be using. Download these guys, run the executable. If you're running a Mac or a Linux, then here's the Mac option. Here's some Linux options. So you can download and execute those things. Now the trick is you have to figure out where they hid the Java files. And this part, if you get this far before the camp, then that's good enough. We can do the rest of this in a pretty straightforward way. But when you get down here, once you get the Java installed, go back to your Windows folder and figure out where they put it. And I'll tell you where they put it almost always. If you use the default options, we go to Windows, there we are in the C drive at the top. And down here is Program Files. And under Program Files, there it is, Java. And they're going to have some numbers for the version. And this is JDK, Java Development Kit, version 8. I go in here and BIN for binary, and what do you know? There's the two things I need. Java.exe I need, and javac.exe. Javac is the compiler. That's the thing that turns your program into executable code, and Java is the actual run the program. And what you need to pay attention to is up here in the Windows, what is that big long path name? C, program files, Java, JDK 1.8, blah, 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 bin. The reason you want that is because if you first go in and type in into your command prompt and try to run the Javac and the Java files, usually it doesn't work. Java usually works, Java C usually does not. And the reason is the program doesn't, the computer doesn't know where to look for that. So what you do is you set the path. And again, if you don't do this ahead of class or ahead of the camp, that's fine. But if you want to get things running ahead of time, just type that into the command prompt. Literally do that, and when it works, it says success specified value is saved. If it doesn't work, don't freak out. Okay. So you'll see that. And then we've already talked about the commands that we need to worry about: change directory, and then to actually compile a Java file, we use the Java C command, and then to run it, we use the Java command. So it's going to look like this. The way to test to see if this works, type java-version. That won't actually run Java, it will just tell you the version number, and it tells us that's our version. And the fact that it knew the version means that this was installed correctly. Java C -version, and it tells us the version. So that's just confirmation that everything worked correctly. We're not going to run a Java file just yet. We just installed Java, installed Notepad, verified that everything was working correctly. On the next couple of lectures, we'll just do a really simple Java program.